Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hello and welcome to episode number 76 of the RDO podcast. The boys are back together this week. Thank you, Alex, for joining me this week. How you going, brother?
I'm much better, seeing though now I've just survived the Rona.
Just survived the Rona. So we sort of kept it to ourselves last week. The reason why I ended up doing a solo episode was because Alex got the dreaded COVID-19.
Well, at the time we didn't know, so
That is
I'll
true.
run you through a bit of a story.
Mm-hmm.
I was Monday fine.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday went to the gym, and then after the gym, I went to the gym on Monday as well. Tuesday night, I started to get a scratchy throat, and I was like, "Oh, that's no good." Anyway, woke up, slept in, which is unlike me. Probably slept until like 7:30 or something.
Yep.
And then I felt, oh, okay, I'm a little bit tired. Got up, had breakfast, went back to bed at like 10 o'clock. Slept for 2 hours, woke up, had lunch, went back to bed for another 2 hours. Slept like a baby, you know, one of those naps where you wake up in a pool of urine.
Yeah. When you're out.
Woke up, had dinner. I think I was in bed at 8:30 that night. Mm-hmm. And then the next night, had an afternoon nap at 2 o'clock. And still scratchy throat, but not as scratchy. Mm-hmm. Like no cough, nothing. Literally just fatigue.
Yeah.
And then by Friday, I was completely fine.
Yeah.
Tried to have a nap, thinking I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And just couldn't.
Right.
Didn't sleep.
Yep.
Went to bed at normal time that night.
Mm-hmm.
Finally got our hands on some rats.
Yep.
Knowing what it was going to say, because I was showing signs of Omicron.
Yep.
And took the rat test and I was positive.
Mm-hmm.
And by Sunday...
So that was Friday that you took the rat test?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By Sunday, I was so freaking bored because I felt great. I felt awesome. And then thought, no, go back to work. So Monday, full day of work on Monday because I had a lot to catch up on because I didn't really do anything over the weekend.
Yeah.
Gym on Monday night, went hard. I'm back, baby.
Yeah. So when because obviously you had a feeling that you had COVID well before you actually got the rat.
Because you can't get them.
Because you can't get them, which is by design. But anyway, when you felt like you had COVID, how did you handle it and what did you do?
I just stayed at home. So I knew what it was. We talk about this enough to be pretty aware of like the symptoms. Mm-hmm. So I just stayed at home and just rested.
Yeah.
And that was literally...
Did you change anything as far as your vitamins go, food, or...?
I did up the D.
Yep.
I did up the vitamin D because I wasn't even going outside.
Yeah.
So I did... and I did double up my zinc intake as well. So I always take zinc.
Yep.
But I doubled the dosage of zinc.
Yep. Cool. Interesting note on vitamin D before I forget. I listened to a 2-hour podcast literally about just vitamin D the other day. And they had a really interesting point, which was, so in Australia, obviously our sun's pretty harsh, and a lot of people go for morning walks and stuff like that, and obviously you're in the sunshine in the morning, and they feel like that is enough to get adequate vitamin D from sun exposure. But apparently there is an issue in regards to how high in the sky the sun is, because if it's less than if it's on less than a 45 degree angle in the sky, because of the amount of ozone it has to get through, the UVB rays actually get stopped.
Right.
So if you're just getting sunlight in the mornings and in the afternoons, when it's past that 45 degree angle, you're not actually going to be producing vitamin D.
Interesting.
Naturally. But if it's above the 45 degree angle, you will be producing it. And they were saying that, so with the whole vitamin D thing, again, as far as supplementing and stuff like that goes, if you wanted to actually do it properly, go to a doctor, get your levels checked, see if you're deficient. Apparently it's extremely high prevalence of people who are vitamin D deficient, and I think it's symptomatic of our society. A lot of us, you know, if we are trying to get fit and healthy, we go for a walk in the morning or a walk in the afternoon, but we spend all day in an office.
Yeah.
We get taught to avoid the sun in the middle of the day in Australia because it is so harsh. So go and get your vitamin D levels tested. But they were saying that if you spend half an hour in the sunlight in the middle of the day, your body will produce about 10,000 international units of vitamin D.
Right.
Which obviously is adequate for day-to-day life, but also for if you're trying to treat COVID, for example. I know Peter McCullough's protocol is to get at least 5,000 IUs of vitamin D per day. So yeah, interesting fact. So if you do believe that you're getting adequate vitamin D just from the sunshine, but you're not actually out between sort of 10 and 2 in the middle of the day, you possibly aren't. So maybe get it tested out, because that's one of the biggest indicators for poor outcomes from COVID.
Yeah, there you go. So, and the scratchy throat thing may not have even been a symptom of it. It's just because I was sleeping with the aircon on.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't usually do that.
And it's on like the dry function or whatever.
No, I didn't have it set to dry function, but I never usually respond well to flat out aircon in bed.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had worse hangovers.
Yeah, right.
I've had way worse hangovers. It was purely just fatigue.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I literally just stayed home just to stay away from people, and that was it.
Yeah, cool. And I guess it's interesting, and we spoke about this briefly yesterday, but the psychology of a COVID positive diagnosis is something that is very, very interesting to me at the moment.
From a psychological point of view.
Yeah. Because you handled it in the way that everyone should handle COVID. Understand it for what it is. Understand that if it is Omicron, look, you might have gotten Delta, potentially. Delta's still out there. And Delta is worse than Omicron, but Delta was still not putting the majority of people in hospital or in serious illness. Most people were still treating themselves at home.
I still had taste and smell. That's why I didn't think it was Delta.
Yep, fair point. You're not in a high risk group to die from COVID or to have severe outcomes from COVID. So the big key for me is to keep the stress levels low. Like whether you have a positive diagnosis or not, if you've got symptoms, don't stress about it, because there are things that you can be doing. And what I found really, really interesting is, because literally, like, I would say 50 to 60% of the people I spend most of my time with in the last 3 weeks have had COVID.
Yep.
And it's a variety of vaccinated, unvaccinated. The majority of them are vaccinated.
Yep.
And I mean, Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer, just came out and said, the first 2 jabs do nothing to stop Omicron or assist with Omicron. We're coming out with an Omicron-specific vaccine. Take that for what it is. He could just be trying to sell new shots. He could be legit. Who fucking knows at this point in time? But obviously, the vaccination doesn't seem to stop you from actually getting the infection. So the key is when you do get infected to handle it properly. And the issue that I've got is the media has fed people 2 years worth of fear porn about COVID. So I know people who are full, hard-out red pillars who have gotten symptoms, can't get a rat, and the anxiety of even thinking, I might have COVID, is keeping them up at night.
Yeah.
So they're not sleeping.
I've seen that too.
Right? And we know that sleep's so important for recovery. So the key is this, like, educate yourself. We've spoken about a million different things, but there are things that you can do to make your immune system stronger in general, but support your immune system to overcome COVID, whether you are vaccinated or not. They're the same things.
Yep.
Research those things. So if you get symptoms, do those things straight away, and hopefully it will assist you in having a better outcome.
What I was really surprised about is the amount of friends of mine that were like adamant that I go get a PCR, and I'm like, why? And this last week was really the height of the issues with testing, right?
Yeah.
That was the absolute apex of that issue.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, you just need confirmation. You need to get confirmation. Like,
for what purpose?
For what? And then they're like, oh, what if? And then you got to ring everyone that you know, and like, no, man. Everyone just needs to handle it like this. If you feel sick, deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Just deal with it. Oh, what if people have kids?
And by deal with it, you mean do the right thing, stay at home.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing too. If you get a negative PCR test and you've just got, I can't even say the flu because the PCR test can't distinguish between COVID and the flu. But let's say you got a negative rat test, because maybe that can only pick up COVID.
Yep.
And if you've only got the flu, getting a negative rat test, does that mean that you should go out in the community? No.
No, exactly.
It means you should stay home and not attempt to get people sick. But it is interesting, and that's that psychology thing. Like, everyone is so
programmed. I think it's
programmed, 100%.
They've been programmed to that's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. And I said to these guys, like, that's the problem.
Yep.
So what, like, you're trying to get me into a system, and look, it's out of a place of love. Okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get that
of
they are caring for me, so I appreciate that.
Mm.
But the irrationality behind it is mental, and that's why you have these queues
Yeah.
at these testing facilities.
People who have no symptoms, who have been near someone a week ago who has then come out and had to do the ring around, like they've got an STD,
Yeah.
call all my sexual partners.
That's
are
my
going-
other big thing too. How do you know? Why are we assuming that like we know how to contact, like, because now contact tracing's on us, right?
Yeah.
How do I know where I got it?
You don't.
There's no way that you can tell.
And see, this is
And
one...
then and the info is irrelevant, right?
Yep.
Because what are you going to do if you're sick
You're just going to disrupt life for other people.
for no reason?
And it's interesting, right? So, like, I've been thinking a lot about the whole situation and the programming aspect of it. And to me, the two biggest keys with COVID hysteria is that for the last 2 years, we were told that asymptomatic spread was a thing when it's not. And we were told that you are at peak infectiousness 2 days before you start showing symptoms, which I also believe to be bullshit. Because the whole theory behind it is, so with COVID as a disease, and Omicron's slightly different, but with COVID, at the beginning of your infection, it's mainly located in your nasal passage, and in the first few days, those cells are sort of rapidly multiplying in there. And so look, there is a possibility that just before your body starts exhibiting some real symptoms because you're starting to get really ill, you might have enough in there that you're going to be breathing it out, right? But just because you've started showing symptoms doesn't mean that those cells stop replicating.
Yeah.
So I would assume that someone who is showing severe symptoms, coughing, sneezing, and spluttering, etc., is more highly likely to have a higher viral load and actually have the mechanisms happening in their body to shoot that stuff out into the public. So it just goes back to, so with this programming thing and the fear thing, like we've spoken about a million times before, everyone's been trained to be scared of an invisible enemy.
Yeah.
Because we were told, even if someone shows no symptoms, they're the ones who are getting you sick because they're asymptomatically spreading the virus.
Yeah.
And people are terrified. And it's painting people's behaviour. And Robert Malone's thing that he did on Rogan's about the mass formation psychosis was super interesting, because one of the biggest points out of that for me was that he goes, the data no longer matters.
Yeah.
And you see this when you speak to people. Like, I've had conversations during the week with people who are like, you need to get vaccinated because Omicron's spreading everywhere. And I'm like, but why? The data clearly shows, like, in my age group, I haven't looked at the numbers, but you would have heard me run through them the other week. There was like 80,000 people in my age group who had the disease at the time, and 20 of them had died. And again, look, there was 2 cases of guys in their 30s that died last week. One was vaccinated, one was unvaccinated. So, that's 50-50.
Yeah, it's hard to say what it does, if any efficacy, because there seems to be...
Well, it's the chicken or the egg thing, right? Are these people having better outcomes because they're vaccinated, or are these people having better outcomes because Omicron isn't as severe? And now all the news stories are out talking about how, now doctors are suggesting that Omicron is less severe, which the doctors in South Africa suggested when this thing kicked off 2 months ago.
I was waiting for that. That was really a defining moment when they just kept saying, we just don't know. We just don't know. We just know. Okay, well, with Delta, you knew.
Yeah.
When Delta came out in America, you knew. You told us straight away. But this Omicron, we just don't know. We just don't know. We just don't know. But we know, get boosted. We know, get boosted.
That's right. Well, we know the booster's going to help you.
And then if you, from a Queenslander's point of view, the moment that it kicked off is when we let vaccinated people come into the state. That's what...
Yeah.
That was the day it went crazy.
But also, think about, from a Queensland perspective, the new run of mandates, which is teachers, childcare workers, and people who work at prisons, whatever they're called, write in the comments, that mandate was brought in, and Anastasia Palaszczuk in her speech said, because the uncertainties around Omicron, we're bringing in these mandates. Fast forward till now. So that was November 30, I believe, was when that press conference was held, and she made those changes.
Yep.
So then they had the vaccine obviously, our partners are both teachers, so we follow the teacher thing very closely. And the mandate was you need to have your first dose by the 17th of December and your second dose by the 23rd of January. And all the schools were supposed to let the government know by the 10th of January what the status was and what the issue is. So fast forward until now, and now all of a sudden, even though you put these mandates in place, well, they're pushing back school for 2 weeks. And then again, no consultation with the teaching community or the unions or anyone, push the school year back by 2 weeks, and then they planned on having them work an extra 2 weeks at the end of the year. But at the same time, still want teachers to prepare things like online learning and all that shit. So then you go, okay, what was the point of the mandate?
Yeah.
Right? Because the whole point of the mandate beforehand was because kids need to go to school and we need the school year to start uninterrupted. Well, then you put the mandate in place and we're interrupting the start of school. So what was the point?
Yeah.
And when you look at the data on preventing the spread of COVID, clearly the vaccine's doing nothing to prevent the spread of COVID. The masks are doing nothing to prevent the spread of COVID. So we still had to push the school year back. Now, there was a theory flying around the interwebs that one of the teaching unions had told their members who didn't want to get vaccinated to leave it until the last minute to let their school know, and that about 20,000 teachers had said they weren't getting vaccinated, and the reason why they're pushing back the school year is because they don't actually have enough staff.
Can I tell you why I don't buy that?
Yeah.
Because we had sought some legal advice, and most of the lawyers were working with the unions on how to get teachers to comply.
There's two different unions though. So there's the normal teachers union, and then there's another union called the Red Union.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, yeah.
And it was the Red Union that was telling their members, if you're not going to get it, leave it until the last minute, because that's the only way you're going to actually be able to have the impact. And the timing was remarkable, because the due date to tell your school was like, I think it was Friday the 7th of January, and I'm pretty sure it was on the Sunday that Palaszczuk had the press conference about moving the school year back. So the timing just lined up as well. But who knows? Could be right, could be wrong. Who knows?
Yeah.
I know plenty of teachers, though, that are unvaccinated, don't want to get it and are literally holding out hoping that something will change.
Yeah.
Which, based on the data, whatever, should probably change.
There's a lot to be said for this programming thing, though. And the one big one is now they are trying to change the definition of what we should be looking at, which is case numbers, which is what we've been whinging about since the get-go, because we knew that this vaccine doesn't stop cases. But it's interesting now that the powers that be are the ones who are now negatively affected by their own programming.
That's
so
right.
You've drummed that in for 2 years, flat out case, daily case numbers, daily case numbers, Kaylee days numbers, and now all of a sudden, it's not working in your favour.
That's right.
And you're trying to unplug us from that. It's going to take you a long time.
That's right. And that's the interesting thing for me, because there will be people who will just cop it and continue on and continue to listen. There are plenty of people jumping off though. And objectively speaking, it's funny, right? Because that chicken or the egg argument, it is so relevant to the conversation around COVID, because we've got 3 years worth, well, not 3 years, but we've got 2 full years worth of data and the start of this year's worth of data now to go off. And the first year it was like 28,408 cases, 909 deaths with no vaccines in the first year. In the second year, we had somewhere around 200,000 cases and about 1,300 deaths. So objectively speaking, with vaccines, we had more cases and more deaths in the full year. And the argument could be made, well, that's because Delta was more transmissible. Therefore, more cases means you've got more deaths but a lower percentage. So you could argue that it was the vaccine that was protecting people. However, if you go back to any media or government messaging from last year, it was all about it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Yeah.
And you need to remember as well that the vaccine rollout started in February and was a stepped out process where you started with healthcare workers first, and then you had old people, and then it just sort of stepped out. So it's not like the whole population had a chance to be fully vaccinated by the beginning of the year. So it's like everyone uses the data, and we do it too. Everyone uses the data in the way that suits their argument. Now, the issue is, you're right, the government's tying themselves up in knots, because if you look, we're not even at the end of the first month of this year, and we've had somewhere around 600,000 or 700,000 cases, and I don't know what the death number is off the top of my head.
But it's more, it's high.
Because of the case numbers.
Because of the case numbers, yeah.
But the thing is too, so one thing that you guys will notice, because you pay attention, is the reporting of the data that we receive from the chief health officers and everything like that. And it's all about whenever it's... So let's say you've got 10 people... Sorry, there was a day that there was 11 people in the ICU, and 6 of them were unvaccinated, and 5 of them had serious comorbidities.
Yeah.
Now, they just make excuses for the vaccinated people being in there. They never say, these 6 people are unvaccinated and all 6 of them have serious comorbidities.
Yeah.
So what the programming is trying to get out there is that 100% perfectly healthy yet unvaccinated people are in the ICU, and the only 5 people that are in the ICU who are vaccinated have serious health issues anyway. So it's making excuses for the vaccinated people being in the ICU.
You see, it's funny because I interpret it differently.
Right.
So the line to me is there's 11 people in the ICU, 6 people are unvaccinated. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And how many had comorbidities?
The other 5. The 5...
So they don't say the other 5.
No, they did. In the news article, it said the 5 that were unvaccinated all had serious comorbidities.
Well, what about the other good one that we saw that was interesting wording, a double negative, where the people were
all 3 deaths were not unvaccinated.
Yeah.
Which means they were vaccinated.
But it's brilliant, right? It's brilliant because you put the word unvaccinated, you associate death with unvaccinated.
That's right.
Even though it's a double negative.
Goes, 3 more unvaccinated people died, because that's all they read.
You don't speak in double negatives.
No.
Yeah, so can you say it again? Because it's ridiculous. All 3 deaths were not unvaccinated.
Yeah, something like that. But again, it even sounds so dumb to try to say it because it's so unnatural.
But it ends on unvaccinated.
That's right.
And it says deaths in the body, and it ends on
unvaccinated.
Exactly.
You associate deaths with unvaccinated. And look, let's be real. COVID does kill people.
Yeah,
let's be honest about it.
Comorbidities also kill people too.
Absolutely. And what's scary, and this is so one of the things that I think has been the key for us staying sane and also holding the line, as your van lady said this week.
Legend. Thank you.
Is that, and I'll repeat myself again, I say this every couple of weeks, we are not worried about right now, we're worried about the future. We're worried about 6 months from now, 5 years from now, 25 years from now. There's stories coming out of Canada at the moment, in certain states or provinces or whatever they're called in Canada, where they are bringing in fees for unvaccinated people because of the, in quotation marks, extra healthcare burden they're placing on the system. And they're talking big numbers, like $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
And pro-vax people are celebrating this.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, fuck those people. And what they don't understand is that sets the precedent.
Yeah.
So then anyone in any group who puts any pressure on the healthcare system... At any time, well, now we can bring in a new fee. So all of you, alcoholics, cigarette smokers, drug takers, obese people...
skydivers,
yeah,
race car drivers...
professional football players...
Yeah.
Anyone who puts any extra stress on the healthcare system, well, now you've got this extra fee. Now, we already pay a fee for our healthcare system in Australia.
Yeah.
So this is a trap and it's a trick. And it's using a buzz term at the time, and because the programming has been so strong, like, expect to see this stuff over here. Look at what's happening in, like, WA and in the Northern Territory. So,
but just before you move on to those, I had a conversation with something during the week who is pro the if you go to hospital unvaccinated for COVID things, then you should pay for it. And I said, just take a step out of that for a moment, remove COVID and add any other disease into that. How do you feel? Oh, but it's a choice for those people to not get vaccinated. Okay, yeah. What about an alcoholic? What about an obese person? It's all a choice. And he looked at me so blankly because I just hit him with
that's right.
This
like
logic.
It's logic.
He never even thought of it. Yeah. Never even considered it because when you get stuck. And the beauty of that programming is they get you stuck in having an argument of something that's stupid. Yeah. And
it's so effective.
It's so effective.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because I was listening to something else, and it was not about COVID, but it was about exposing some sort of corruption or whatever. And the person I was speaking about was one of those mentalists, like a Darren Brown type character, but not Darren Brown, different guy. And he was talking about exposing corruption and wordplay and like this hypnosis thing. And I think you might have been commenting on the mass hypnosis type thing that we're going through at the moment. And what the people speaking about the matter were saying was they're like, isn't it interesting how someone whose whole life has been based around mentally tricking people is the one to call this stuff out. And it made me think about us. We're salespeople. Our whole careers, especially early on, when we worked back in you worked back in the dark old days of car sales, you were taught a lot of these mental tricks that you can use to get people to do what you want. So it's interesting to me how we didn't fall for these tricks when we identified them early on. And this wordplay stuff, it's so interesting. And I feel like it's getting worse as they get more desperate, because one of the other things I've noticed as well, I'll read some of these articles that might maybe have a ridiculous clickbaity title designed to get a certain response, and then I scroll down in the comments, and there was one about Novak and Novak's situation, and all these comments were just like, well, he should get deported. He broke our rules, but the thing is, there was like 20 something comments, and it was all a slight variation on the same thing, and I'm like, these are like interns with multiple Facebook accounts putting comments on to make people think that the majority of people are thinking that was the way it should have gone.
Look, some of it could be that. I do believe that there is some of that kind of stuff happening. But I also think the art form in that programming, is making people argue over insignificant issues within the major issue.
True.
And to bring it to a car sales thing, it's, you always try to sell from stock. So when someone said, I want a white Camry, and you don't have one, well, you go, which colour do you prefer, silver or black?
Yeah, that's right.
And then you start making the argument at silver or black, and you've forgotten about the white one came in that they wanted.
Yep.
And that's what I think happens online. That's why I've said to people, like, I do a brief flick through the comments to get a vibe of what's happening, but I obviously never engage in it. Because there's literally no point. And there's a lot of idiots on there. It's a lot of idiots talking about idiot things. Okay. But you need to be aware of you arguing a moot point.
Yeah.
Don't get trapped arguing with someone over the thing that's irrelevant. I had a conversation with someone during the week. He was whinging about no financial support from the government. Okay, you are trying to argue the gaping wound, right?
Yeah, it's a band-aid solution to the gaping wound.
But you're not going to the guy with the knife to slash the guy open.
That's right.
That's what you should be arguing, and that's the constructive thing. And there are things that you can do.
Yeah.
Right. Don't get caught in the surface rust.
That's right. I had a similar experience I had a Facebook argument with two guys during the week because I stopped my self-imposed Facebook status ban and put one up. And my post was literally about essentially whether you're vaccinated or not. Clearly, heaps of people are getting Omicron, and I feel like we could be doing far more to assist people who've got Omicron to stop them from going to hospital. And I'm getting really sick of everyone pretending they care about frontline healthcare workers when we're not actually doing anything at home to stop them going to hospital. And these two guys who my mate tagged in, shout out to Mitchell.
It was funny. He did bomb you.
Yeah.
He did parachute drop some behind enemy lines.
Well played, sir. Yeah. But these guys, they were just vaccine apologists. All they wanted to do was defend the vaccine. And I'm like, stick on the point. The point was not about bashing vaccines. My point is, whether you're vaccinated or not, let's say you are vaccinated, if you've got the disease, what else can we do to stop you from going to hospital? And they kept going back to it, and they're like, well, that's the point of the vaccines. Like, I get that, but they've already got it. So, and then one of the guys was like, well, how about this? If you've got positive test, no symptoms, just stay home and you'll be fine. If you've got positive test and mild symptoms, then take paracetamol, ibuprofen, blah, blah, blah. Moderate test, severe symptoms, go to hospital. Is that good enough for you? And I said, no, I want something that stops these positive test mild people turning into positive test severe people.
Yeah.
What can we do for those people?
Yeah.
Because for 2 years now, the frontline COVID critical care alliance has had a protocol that they have used to successfully treat our patients for COVID in America. We still do nothing in Australia. There's been news story after news story from like ABC and stuff like that recently saying what to do if you get COVID. The first thing is always stay home and call all your sexual partners and tell them that you're a disease plague rat. The second thing is, make sure you've stocked up on paracetamol. It's like paracetamol stopped you feeling the pain. It doesn't help your body fix the disease.
But that is the definition of the programming. And that's
right.
When every single day, multiple times a day, they say vaccines are the best thing
That's right.
What is the line? I tried to block it out. What is the actual line?
Vaccination is still the safest and most effective way to prevent severe disease from COVID-19.
Yeah, so when you hear that multiple times, that's all you're going to think. And a rational person goes, well, hold on. What else can we do?
That's right.
And we should be throwing the kitchen sink at it.
Yeah.
And
use all the tools in the tool belt.
And we know Monash University had done a study here that showed really great thing in 2020, and we kiboshed it.
Yeah.
So even the fact that we're not looking at stuff, even if whatever they're looking at didn't happen to be the answer, at least I want to know the results of that study.
Well, see, that's another thing that they brought up. They went straight back to the buzz terms. Because when I brought up the Frontline Critical Care Alliance and their whole protocol, and I had put a link to the protocol, I'm like, this is for your reference if you hadn't seen it before, they went straight to shit-talking ivermectin. I was like, hold on. Ivermectin is one of like 10 different compounds that these guys use in their protocol. Stop talking about it. And then the guy literally goes, you need to stop thinking that ivermectin's a silver bullet. And I'm like, I don't think ivermectin is a silver bullet. I think that ivermectin is one of 10 compounds in a structured protocol, an early treatment protocol, is a way better idea than literally doing nothing.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do at the moment. Yeah. We literally do nothing.
Yeah.
And this is not a dig at GPs, healthcare workers, or anything like that. This is a dig at government bureaucrats who've gotten in the way of the doctor-patient relationship, and they've stopped doctors from being able to treat people.
Yeah.
And as clear as fucking day, we've spoken about it before, about when the TGA banned doctors from prescribing ivermectin for COVID treatment.
Because of social media response.
And because there's a shortage? Bullshit.
Yeah.
India makes this shit by the ton.
Yeah.
It's cents on the dollar to order this drug.
There's more ivermectin than there are rat tests.
Absolutely. And that's another thing too, right? So when you look at the response and you go, at every step of the way, our government has failed to plan ahead. It looks like. At every step of the way.
I agree with that.
So we knew 6 months ago that by December we weren't going to be going for PCR because the CDC in America had already said that they were going to get rid of it, which is when we do everything that America tells us to do anyway.
Yeah.
So we knew that. And yet we've rolled into the end of the year with no rats. Now, as we said before, do we actually have no rats, or are they just in a warehouse out the back somewhere being hidden?
Well, I don't think that's the case. I think it's mismanagement because I know that because we make the rats in Pinkenba in Brisbane.
But we don't order those rats.
We ordered none of them, and the CEO made some kind of snide remark when I watched because I was blown away by that, and that's one of the reasons why I added that to our prediction of the future is that we would move to rats. These guys were on it, and he's like, the Australian government has expressed zero interest in purchasing rats, so they're all going to America.
Yeah.
Okay, so we knew back then that we had mismanaged this.
And at the time, like 6 months ago, we would have been somewhere around the vicinity of 40 million PCR tests year to date. Not year to date, sorry. Pandemic to date at that point in time. So you would have made the assumption, well, we've used 40 million PCR tests, maybe we should order 40 million rats. Right? Would that be a sensible decision?
Yep.
I mean, at the start of the pandemic, we ordered 6 vaccines for every person in the country.
Yeah,
we ordered 150 million, and now we've got more that we've ordered as well.
And they're not doing what they say they do.
Yeah. Now, that messaging thing too. So I just want to give a shout out. Last week's video had a lot more views than normal. And I think that was partially because there was a lot of audio viewers that actually came over to YouTube to watch it. So thanks for watching it, because obviously
I see, thank you. Like and subscribe. Send it to a friend.
We picked up a couple of extra subscribers this week too. So if you haven't subscribed yet and you are enjoying the content, please subscribe. It does help the channel out.
Yeah, or flat out just send us money. We don't care.
Yeah, we'll take cash. It's fine.
Crypto.
Yeah, both. But now I completely lost my train of thought.
So a lot of people came on. They watched the video. You had a lot of extra people contacting you.
Yeah, sorry, no, you're right. So I had a lot of people contact me because obviously with this programming stuff, I think as adults it's really easy to, if you are programmed to do something, to not really think twice when it's yourself. But I had a lot of parents actually reach out to me going, hey, we're fully vaccinated. I've got a 5-year-old child. We didn't know what to do. I've literally done no research into the subject. And after watching, I saw your clip come up, and after watching it, now we're not going to get the kids vaccinated. Now, I don't think I did a very good job of explaining why it doesn't affect kids that well, that badly last week, because there's a reason why kids have low symptoms, if any at all, when it comes to COVID. And it's because of how the virus actually works. So the virus enters human cells. The reason why it looked like it was genetically engineered at the beginning is because this spike protein is the perfect fit for the human ACE2 receptor on your cells. So essentially, say that this is your ACE2 receptor and this is your spike protein. It's perfectly designed to be able to dock in that receptor, and then for the COVID cell to be able to put all of its genetic material inside your own cell and then start to multiply. That's why it's so effective at transmitting. And obviously Omicron is so much more effective as well. The reason why kids don't get bad outcomes from COVID is because, biologically speaking, they have far less ACE2 receptors on their cells. So it's as simple as less virus is able to enter their cells, which is why they don't get as sick.
Yeah.
And it's why old people die, because they've got an adult amount of ACE2 receptors and frail bodies.
Yeah.
Right? So obviously, there's all this messaging out in the marketplace at the moment about, oh, got to protect your kids, Omicron surge, and the vaccine rollout started last week. And I actually haven't seen many vaccine numbers. Have you seen any numbers reported? I haven't been able to watch the news that much.
I have... The only thing I'll say is I noticed that Queensland's numbers are moving at an absolute snail's pace to the point where a couple of weeks ago they've added the second decimal point. and they're... Because we're at 89 point something a week ago, and they're only predicting that we're going to reach 90 in like another week's time. Yeah. It's moving so slow.
Yeah.
But the kid one, I don't know. I know bookings are talking about...
they're building demand.
They're building... I did find this... And let's make sure we get back to yours. But I noticed Darth talking about having 5,000 bookings and to go and make the bookings and then being really happy when it went to 25,000 bookings. But that was in 2 different days, right? But I also noticed that they would put a fear campaign in between that time and then check what the bookings are to get the response. Yeah. Right? So you can directly say, this is the messaging we put out and this is the response we get in the public. And so a real little thing I noticed is, what's the new CHO in Australia?
Dr. Gerard or something? Something?
So there was a press conference that I watched, and when Darth talked about bookings, big smile. When the CHO talked about boosters, he rubbed his hands together.
All right.
I found that really interesting. I was watching with Tasha. I'm like, did you see that? Did you see that? Hands. Oh, he's quite animated. He's quite an animated guy, but never rubbed his hands together. And as soon as he got to it, the numbers of booster shots, he rubbed his hands together.
Interesting.
Yeah, I found it.
I love that body language stuff.
Yeah.
I was watching I'm embarrassed to say it. I was watching The Project the other night because it just happened to come on.
It should be embarrassed.
On the TV.
It sucks.
And they're talking about...
Unless Nazim Hussein's on it. He's hilarious.
He was on it, actually.
Yeah.
But they were talking about vaccinating kids and that the
Let me guess, they're pro that.
Yeah, funnily enough. Yeah.
Let me guess, every single one of them is pro that.
They are the project.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Pro-inject.
And they project themselves on
they're pro-inject.
Yeah. But what was interesting is former Australian netballer Liz Ellis was on. And obviously, being a former sports... She does a lot of media stuff now, but not as trained as a media person.
Yeah.
And obviously they...
Hasn't been given the brief.
Well, they have given her the brief, but she can't hide her body language. So they'd swung to her for her to do her little quip, which is supposed to sound natural, but you know it's on a screen and she's reading it straight off the screen about how good it is to vaccinate kids. And I was watched her because they made the mistake of putting the side angle camera on
Yeah.
her instead of the front on one. And as she's saying it, she crossed her arms below the desk.
Oh,
So she completely didn't believe in what she was
Yeah.
saying. And I pointed out to Amanda straight away, and I'm like, see that? Like, body language doesn't lie. Unless you're a specialist in it
Yeah.
and someone who's had to use it every single day, it doesn't lie. And, like, obviously this chief health officer, I don't think anyone in the state had ever heard of him before he took over the job. He's not... Well, it's not a shit job, mate. He'd be getting paid, son.
Yeah, true.
Get these boosters in.
Yeah.
But yeah, super interesting. Watch body language.
Yeah, but it's hard for the layman to just understand what...
That is true. And this comes back from our sales backgrounds. Like, our jobs used to be reading people every single day. And it would be as simple as... The reason why body language is so important is because we're trying to steer people in a direction that we want them to go. And if you throw something out there and then you get these ones, you know, okay, that didn't land how I was hoping it would. I need to back off and I need to try something else.
Yeah.
So we're very...
We're acutely
conscious
aware
of
of body language. And that's one thing, though, I think I'm extremely good at. That's I almost can see... A talent that I had selling was that I could see what... almost see the encounter from a third person.
Yep.
And I could really understand the way the other person was feeling. And that's why some of my long deals took a long time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you might have to completely back out, completely change the subject, and come back to it. But yeah,
for audio listeners, I'm completely crossed up at the moment, but it's because my body is so sore.
and that is the thing too.
From this work week as well.
Crossed arms doesn't necessarily mean dejected. Yeah,
No,
there are other things that mean.
Yeah, there are ailments.
Yeah.
So you need to know. But yeah.
Can we talk about the happy camps?
Yes. This is a story that I want everyone to follow as closely as you can, because there won't really be a lot that you'll be able to sort of latch onto. And this is, so up in Queensland, we've got the Wellcamp Quarantine Facility just opened. And they're changing the name to, it's like the Queensland Recreation and something Centre or whatever. But it just smells bad. So if you look into it at all, to give you a brief breakdown, so you'll remember last year our government mentioned that they were building 2 quarantine camps, facilities, but they're quarantine camps for people to go into. Now, what's really interesting about this is a lot of things. Number one, as of today, when you guys will be listening to this Monday, there's literally no one who is on the list who would need to actually quarantine in the facility anymore.
What if you were flying in unvaccinated?
Doesn't matter. It's quarantine-free travel as of Monday.
Okay.
So, no. Fully vaccinated people are the only people allowed to still fly in.
Yeah.
So you have to be vaccinated to come in from overseas, but unvaccinated people can come in interstate.
Yep.
So, but it's fully quarantine-free travel interstate, and vaccinated people can come in quarantine-free travel from international.
Yep.
There is literally no group that is specified that would need to have a quarantine facility as of this week.
Yep.
And the facility's just opened. So in other words, we've spent all this money to create this facility for no one to go into it. But it gets way better. The deal to build the facility was done with the Wagner family, who are like a very, very powerful, rich family in Queensland. And they got the contract to build the facility, but also in that contract, the way that it works, now I don't know if the Wagner family fronted any money. I would assume not. It's taxpayer funded, but the actual contract itself is commercial in confidence. So I've mentioned this before. We will never see the details of this contract. We will never know how much taxpayer money was funneled into this project. But we've paid for it to be built. The company, the Wagner's Corporation, or whatever the company is that it's under, in the deal, they're leasing it back to the Queensland government for 12 months. So we paid to build it, then they're going to lease it back to us. So we're going to pay to lease it for 12 months for quarantine purposes. And then they take full ownership over it as a private entity, and they're going to be using it for whatever, whether it's entertainment precinct or accommodation, whatever they end up using it for. But it sounds like a pretty bad deal for the Queensland taxpayer.
What did I say when we first heard about this facility being built?
Well, it's dodgy. Like we
No, well, what
I
do you
don't remember exactly specifically.
I'll tell
what
you
said.
exactly what I said.
What'd you say?
Because I called this ages ago. I knew we would never use it,
Yep.
and I knew because it was government money, no one would care, because we can quite happily squander tens of millions of dollars on a project that will just fall by the wayside. And I said that if it was a private company that had done it off their own bat, they would want measures in place to protect them, to make sure that it was like it was beneficial, mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
But if it was a government sanctioned thing, I said at the time it was a good thing because it was giving people hope that we've done stuff in the future. Tick.
Yeah.
But knowing the way that it was going to go, it was going to be completely wasted.
Yeah, and we called it late last year, probably mid to late last year when they first announced the project, like that no one was going to be using this for quarantine. Like at the time, they were full on the vaccine rollout, saying that the vaccine was going to solve all of our problems. So we just sort of called bullshit and we're like, so if the vaccine is going to solve our problems by the end of the year, which is what they were claiming, then why would we build a quarantine facility that won't be available until the next year?
Yeah.
What would be the point of that?
Yeah.
And what's so interesting about this whole story is obviously it just sounds dodgy at face value. You've made the point a million times. We haven't built any hospitals.
Yeah.
We're claiming that we've got this massive surge in cases and issues with the healthcare system, and that is true. Like
But we've done nothing to bolster
we've done nothing to bolster that. Like China, what they build a new hospital in the first
2
month?
weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks. Yeah.
2 weeks from there's footage of them building it. They built a hospital in 2 weeks.
Yeah. We fired healthcare workers and didn't build a hospital, but we're building 2 quarantine facilities, and it just reeks of bureaucratic. Like, I don't want to make any assumptions that anything criminal has gone on, but to me, it just seems like a really bad deal for the taxpayer because it essentially looks like we have spent however many millions of dollars, because you know it's going to be in the millions, to build a facility that we will never get the intended use out of, and then a private company will take over that and be able to use it for its own financial gain.
I think you're looking at it the wrong way. Most things that government do are a waste of taxpayer money.
Yep.
Most things. Most projects they can't do properly. The biggest problem with this whole thing is that they had one response to COVID, and that was it.
Yep.
And that as the science changed and as the efficacy waned very quickly, the business model became unviable, and we've done nothing to change it.
But
we've not steered the course at all.
Let me ask you this, because we've always said forever that government sucks at running any project. Everything runs over schedule, over budget. They just suck at it, and it's because they're all dumb. I'm starting.
It's not dumb.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder how much of it is mismanagement and how much of it is purposeful mismanagement.
It's not purposeful mismanagement. I'll tell you what it is. Our system allows it to be our government system allows projects to be exploited by the public sector.
Yeah.
So I have no problems with Wagner's doing that deal that massively benefits them because they got away with it.
Yeah.
They got someone to sign up
Yep.
to do that deal. Good on them. Okay. There are, whenever government bureaucracy gets involved, it gets exploited because there's no consequence from the person on the government side if they make a mistake. If you make a bad deal, there's an endless pit of money.
Yep.
It's irrelevant. The number is irrelevant. So that's why, like, a road project that's private is $5 million.
Yeah.
A council job's $20 million. Right? It's just it's exploited because it can be.
Yeah, but so can I clarify? I've got no drama with this from the Wagner corporation side because they're just doing what a business does. If you can get yourself the best plum deal ever, you would be stupid not to take advantage of it. What I'm saying is, are there incentives for the government people signing off on these projects outside of what we believe there is? And the reason why I bring this up now is because we got to go back to Sludgate. So I've been exchanging messages with the former CEO and owner of iCook Foods, Ian Cook, about the whole Sludgate situation. We are planning on having him on the podcast when we can sort out a time that suits everyone, which we're very excited about. Because it's one of the biggest stories that not enough people know about.
Yep.
And essentially, what it looks like has happened in... What the goal was for the government, who created Community Chef as their competitor, was to get rid of every competitor that Community Chef had, and I Cook Foods was the last one left that ran the longest. And if they got rid of every competitor, because the business model was to supply food to healthcare, aged care, hospital organisations, if you get rid of all the competitors, all of a sudden Community Chef would become an essential business and would then get unlimited funding forever. And Community Chef was funded to the tune of $30 million over 10 years, and that business lost money every single year. Now, that losing money at face value looks like mismanagement, for typical government mismanagement. But when you look into it deeper, you go, is it government mismanagement, or have there been dodgy deals done by the government people who've organised it in the first place, where some of that money is getting funneled to their mates and back to them?
For sure.
Yeah.
100% that's happening, and that is what mismanagement is.
I don't think, well, no, because I think there's a perception issue, and this might be just in my head the way that I look at it, but the way when I hear government sucks at all the projects, I hear that it's government gets taken for a ride by private business because they don't know what they're talking about. That's the way that I perceive it at face value.
Right.
But then the more you look into things like Sludgate, which is a clear out and out corruption, and it's going to court next month.
Yeah.
So it'll be amazing to see what the results happen from that. But there's clearly corruption at many different levels of government. You go, okay, what's the incentive for the people who are involved at the highest levels? What is their incentive to do those projects?
See, I categorise that all as mismanagement, because allowing a business to be corrupt, have corrupt deals in it, is mismanagement. So I see what you're saying. It's not purely based on corruption.
In my head, it's corruption, not mismanagement.
But a government entity or a business that allows that kind of corruption to happen is being mismanaged.
Yeah,
so that's why
I think there's a difference between intentionally mismanaging and non-intentionally mismanaging, because you don't know what you're doing.
So
if you're a corrupt person,
are you claiming that it is built purely as a cash cow?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if you're a corrupt person, the easiest excuse to lose money, in quotation marks, in a government business is that the government sucks at everything, because everyone has that perception.
Yeah.
So if you were savvy, you would go, all right, I'm going to start this business. It's going to lose, like Community Chef, for example, I think I've said before, let's say that they just did a deal with a supplier of beef, and they go, okay, so normally when we supply bulk beef, it's $20 or $10 a kilo. And you go, cool, because we're the government, we've got an unlimited cash cow of taxpayer money, we'll pay you $20 a kilo for your beef. You take an extra $5 a kilo, and you funnel an extra $5 a kilo back to me.
100%.
How does that sound?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So that's corruption. Whereas mismanagement in that situation, to me, would be that private business owner who sells the beef has the negotiation with government and goes, the standard price that we charge everyone is $20 a kilo, and that government person doing no research and going, oh, sounds fair to me, signing up, and the private business has taken them for a ride.
There's probably a lot of that happening as well, though.
For sure.
Yeah. It's both. It's definitely both.
Yeah, great.
And look, I would like to ask you that question. Do I think, because my concern as a small business owner is when governments are going to get involved in private enterprise, is this a trend? Are they going to start issuing auto bros competitors and have state issued used car sales? It sounds ridiculous, but it also, these things that we're in now are ridiculous too. But to circle back to where this started was this this Wellcamp. I think it's what you said at the opening of this is really important. We need to keep an eye on it. Yeah. We need to keep an eye on, and we should be savvy with our spending too. Like when I've chipped a couple of guys during the week who just want free money because they've been hard up by COVID. You don't want free money. You just want the ability to run your business.
That's right.
That's the important part. So fight that. Don't just say, gimme, 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 because you're paying it. It's your
exactly
money.
the same as the Novak argument. Everyone's pissed off at Novak because the government and the media has taught them that the reason why that this is an issue is because Novak did the wrong thing. But no, that's not the issue. The issue is the ridiculous government rules that we've been forced to live under for 2 years. And because everyone's heard that whole saying about crabs in the crab pot. If you've got 8 crabs sitting in a crab pot, they're going to be happy, kind with each other. As long as there's food in there, they'll be sweet. But as soon as one crab tries to swim out the hole, other crabs reach up, grab and pull them back in. It's exactly what like Australia's always had tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah.
So all the government goes is tap into that. Oh, the only reason why the Novak thing is an issue is because he's rich, so he gets different rules to you.
Yeah.
You should be upset about that. No, you should be upset about the fucking rules.
Yeah.
The rules are the problem, not Novak Djokovic.
Yeah.
And again, like, it's a week later. He's in court again because they've tried to cancel his visa for a second time. So, fucking, let's see what happens with that.
I just think we look like the government's trying to play a strong stance on it.
Yeah.
And we look dumb.
I heard the argument the other day. I couldn't believe it. A media pundit had said, this is a really good thing for Australia's tourism industry.
Yeah.
Because it shows it's a safe place to travel to. Because we're so strong on vaccination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy.
It's ludicrous. Do you know what it shows? We'll tell you that you can come into our country, and then we'll change our minds when you get here.
Yeah.
And based on our government doesn't respect the rule of law because the court threw the government's case out, and then they've just gone, oh, you know what? Hey, the immigration minister, he's got special powers. He can just use them to cancel the visa if he wants to. And now we're cutting off our nose to spite our face because I'm pretty sure that the ministerial powers that they're using means that Novak would be banned for 3 years.
Yeah.
So last year, the Australian Open was farcical. Now, we never should have run it in the first place. I credit running the Australian Open with the Delta wave that hit Melbourne because all the cases had petered off by late 2020.
Yeah.
Then we have the Australian Open, again, letting people come into the country.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden Melbourne starts getting this Delta wave.
Yep.
But it was farcical last year. It's a complete farce this year. We're literally fucking around with the best player in the world. Yeah. In a Grand Slam showpiece event. We have booted multiple other players out of the country now, which only happened after the Novak thing teed off. So in other words, Border Force didn't stop any of these other people at the border like they did with Novak.
Yep.
But all these other people, I'd never heard them in the media for the last 2 months speaking about anti-vax shit.
Yeah.
But none of them were vaccinated because they're here on the same exemption.
Yeah.
So we've rounded them up and kicked them out. So now we're kicking players out. So do you think that we're going to hold on to the Australian Open? I don't think we should. Because why would you take the risk? If you're the World Tennis Tour, why would you go, oh, fuck, it's 2023. Are we going back to Australia? What are they going to pull this year?
Think about what it's worth for Novak. What's Novak's net worth? 100 million? 200 million?
I think it's 200 and something $million.
So what do you think it's worth to him to be locked up for how long? Is it half a week now?
Well, he was let out fairly quickly. I think he was let out after like 24, 48 hours because he's got the means to go to court straight away. Yeah. And it obviously shone the light on the refugee situation too, which will hold up in the same hotel. And there's one guy that's been there for 9 fucking years.
That's crazy.
And it's so funny too how there's these activists, we'll call them, who are also pro-vax, but they're also like pro-refugee. So they're like, yeah, like, you know, I'm like, Novak should leave because if he's not unvaccinated, he's putting everyone in danger. He broke our rules. Kick him out. And then it's like, yeah, you know, there's like a whole stack of refugees in the same thing. And they're like, they were seeking asylum. Yeah, like, no, they entered the country illegally, same as Novak did. Yeah. Should we just deport all of them too? Yeah. Like it's does not compute.
I just want to put my stance on the refugee thing. Yeah. We've got heaps of space. Yep. And we've been dropping bombs on countries that we weren't supposed to be dropping bombs on. And if any of those people want to come here, I think we should be welcome them with open arms.
Yeah, and they've been getting those taxpayer-funded handouts that our mates seem to want because the taxpayers been funding those hotels. It's not like they've had jobs for the last 9 years that they're working to pay off the refugee hotel stay. Why don't we just let them out and let them go and work in all these like fruit fields or whatever that all the farms are crying out saying that they don't have enough labour to actually pick the crops because we haven't had any immigration for the last...
And because we've been handing out free money and there's no incentive to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's...
wild times.
Oh, it's absolutely wild times.
There was a story I was supposed to talk about and I didn't do any research on it last night because I went to bed at like 8 o'clock. So yeah. I apologise. I want to come back to it. There's some crazy stuff happening in the markets. And... I'll come back to you next week.
Can we briefly mention the DARPA document dump and potential origins of SARS-CoV-2?
It's not bad salad. It wasn't a bad suit.
Look, it's really it's tough to say.
I want to make a joke.
Yeah.
Won't it be freaking hilarious if, in years' time, like the footage comes out of the guy going for lunch to the wet market, but walking back to the Wuhan Institute of Virology and sitting in the lunchroom, cutting open the bat, sneezing, and this kicks it off? Wouldn't that be hilarious?
Yeah, it would be. It won't happen though. So, the COVID origin story. Now, this is obviously where big tech censorship really kicked off hardcore in 2020. Lab leak hypothesis and all that jazz. Now, some Project Veritas, they've been doing some amazing work in the last 2 years. Think about the stuff that Project Veritas has brought to light in the last 2 years. And one fun fact about Project Veritas, because everyone who doesn't like the things they have to say paints them as a right-wing fringe element group who selectively edits all of their footage to paint a certain narrative. They've been sued millions of times.
Yeah.
Slight exaggeration, but they've been sued tens of times.
Yeah.
They've never lost a court case.
Yeah.
Not once. Because they don't selectively edit things. One of the things that they came into the public sphere with last year was when the FBI raided them because Biden's daughter's diary ended up in their hands. And they tried to claim that Project Veritas had stolen this diary. Mm-hmm. What all the news stories failed to mention was the fact that the diary was obtained by someone else and handed to Project Veritas. Mm-hmm. And the reason why the government knew about it was because Project Veritas handed it back to them because they couldn't verify that the document was real, like a real document, and they didn't think it was the right thing to do to run a story on it. So they handed it back, and then the FBI raided them trying to pretend, right? Because they're right-wing, and obviously the Democrats are in power in America at the moment. Now, the bombshell that they dropped this week was about documents obtained from DARPA. Now, it's basically the research and science arm of the Defense Force in America. And what these documents suggest, and it lines up with a lot of things that have been previously written about, is that EcoHealth Alliance back in 2018 approached DARPA with a grant proposal to receive funding for a gain-of-function experiment they were trying to run to create essentially SARS-CoV-2 as a biological weapon. And DARPA rejected the proposal because it was seen as too dangerous, and obviously there was the gain-of-function moratorium at the time. So it would have gone against that, even though the head of EcoHealth Alliance, who is Peter Daszak, said that it wouldn't. He asserted that it wouldn't go against the ban. Now, the documents seem to suggest that EcoHealth Alliance then took this grant to Dr. Anthony Fauci, who wanted to do the experiments. So he funded it, but it had to obviously go to China because of the ban. Although there were sites in America too that were listed that they were doing these experiments as well. And Fauci funded the experiment. And then now, all of a sudden, we're 2 years into a global pandemic that's been thrust upon us by SARS-CoV-2, which has a spike protein, which is, it appears to be engineered to perfectly fit the human ACE2 receptor cell. Obviously explosive allegations. And it just adds more and more weight to the lab leak hypothesis because, I mean, these documents predate the pandemic and are literally talking about spike proteins and everything like that. So it's heavy. Now, if you want to do you want to go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole with this stuff?
Only lightly. I would just want to look through the top of the rabbit hole.
Here's the interesting thing for me. When you really look at it, because I'm still of the opinion that it was an accidental leak, not a
bioweapon that was
purposely leaked.
Yeah.
And in these DARPA documents, they do seem to suggest that one of the things they were trying to do in Wuhan at the time was actually create a coronavirus which acted like a vaccine to inoculate bats against a certain coronavirus so it wouldn't then transmit to humans.
Whoa, batception.
Yeah, right? So it's like the opposite.
So you're saying that the bats are going to administer the vaccine?
Yeah.
They're trying to train bats to administer the vaccine?
Yeah. That's why they pre-programmed us with the vampire phase of the 2010s. Right?
Yeah. I have come to administer your love.
Yeah. First ever vampire.
One shot or two.
But one of the things that is very cagey about this whole thing is with the Moderna vaccine. The Moderna vaccine is actually co-owned by the National Institutes of Health and the National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Diseases, which is where Fauci runs in America. Because, as we've mentioned before, the mRNA technology was created using publicly funded research. Mm-hmm. So that technology was owned, per se, by the National Institute of Health, who then shared it with Moderna. In return, they have co-ownership of the Moderna vaccine. So Dr. Fauci has got his hands on the vaccine maker and a commercial ownership.
Yeah.
And has also funded the research on the other side of it to create the virus in the first place.
Yep.
So if you wanted to get conspiratorial and think that it was a money-making endeavour, you could think that perhaps it was released on purpose to then have these vaccines ready to go to sell. Potentially. Who knows? Because Fauci was included on both sides of the spectrum.
I get that, but my conspiratorial mind would say that it's more likely it's a bioweapon test than it was a money cash grab, and opportunists have since made money from it.
Yeah, which is interesting too in regards to Omicron, because there's another theory that's come out about Omicron, which is that
these are thought experiments.
These are thought experiments. Yeah, this is not. We're not saying that this is real.
These are thought experiments.
These are some of the theories flying around the internet, and since the conspiracy theorists are like leading about 20-0 at the moment, we're just putting them out in the marketplace, right? In we're throwing them out into the air of public discourse and ideas, so everyone can discuss them.
The idea market.
The idea market, because some of these might be bad ideas, but the theory is. With Omicron, because Omicron seems to be giving people mild disease, but some form of immunity from COVID overall. And there are some conspiracy theorists out there who are stating that perhaps this was an experiment, it looks like it could usher in multiple things that would be potentially beneficial if you were, I guess, an elite person trying to run the world.
Yeah.
Number one, the virus mainly attacks old people. We've got an aging population crisis. So if you can thin the herd by mainly thinning old people out who are not producers, they are consumers, maybe that's a positive thing. Number two, there's the industries that have been created along the way, like the vaccines, like the testing companies. Yeah. They've made a bucket load along the way, so that's a maybe
they're called verticals.
Yeah. Create
multiple businesses to address a particular thing.
Yeah. So it could be a potential side effect as well. So there's a lot of things that are out there about, and obviously the third thing would be the digital identity and social credit score system.
Yeah.
Because one of the interesting conspiracy theories from the beginning was everyone was like, oh, there's a microchip in the vaccines.
Yeah.
And then all the people came out and were like, that's stupid. They're not putting a microchip inside you to track you. But every vaccine's got a batch number on it that's recorded against your digital vaccine passport identification. So instead of having a microchip inside your arm, you've now got it inside your mobile phone.
What about the patent?
You can...
Okay, I don't want to... Right. Okay, take this with a grain of salt, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, take this with a grain of poo.
Yeah.
But apparently Pfizer has just placed a patent. Now, this is very common practice. All businesses do it. Any IP that you have, you make something up, you go get a patent against it so that if you use it in the future, you can use it uninhibited, right? So it's a very standard practice. Mm-hmm. But in this latest batch that Pfizer just did, they wanted to patent the idea of being able to remotely, was it identify or contact trace people by accessing the information from the vaccine inside a person. Is that right? Have I done that wrong?
Yeah, and this is
mental. Okay.
This is the out there thing which relates to 5G and graphene oxide.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm not going down that one yet.
Yeah, but they've put an idea down where like they effectively want to do the microchip thing.
Yeah, there are experiments that Greg Hunt's brother, because he's a scientist as well at some university, that have actually conducted where they've injected rats with substances with graphene oxide inside them, and you can actually use 5G radio waves to change, like make certain parts of their brain fire, potentially change behaviours. But we're not going down that way.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
So,
like and subscribe.
Yeah, so getting back to
your conspiracy theories
to the Omicron thing.
Comments.
So obviously with COVID, those are the things that could be potential benefits. Killing off an older, ageing population, so you've got less consumers, more producers, because it doesn't affect the young people as much. You bring in the digital identity and then potentially the social credit score system, which, for anyone who hasn't heard about social credit score, they actually use a system in China. So at the moment in Australia, we've got credit scores, which is just based on how well you pay your current bills. So when you go to try to get a mortgage to buy a house, your interest rate now is based on your credit history and how likely you are to pay the loan back. Well, China has gone to a thing called a social credit score, which essentially means that you'll be given a score based on
your family, what stock your family comes
how
from, how educated you are,
person you are,
how many tickets you've had in your life,
how far you drive your car, what your carbon footprint is. All of these things will play into it, which again is a pretty terrifying idea, because if you've got one central entity going, okay, we've got everyone onboarded with this program, well now we're going to put the squeeze on. So now these people who fit this criteria, sort of like the Canada thing with being unvaccinated, we're going to put an extra fee on them because they're using more carbon. They're, it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's a bad idea. So COVID has sort of brought in this system where people are now comfortable to have an app on their phone that they have to scan in every single place that they go, which is then that programming thing of stepping you towards the next level.
Yeah.
Which we already had in Australia, because you started with QR codes to do contact tracing, and then you went to QR codes to do vaccine passports.
Yeah.
So it was a step.
And now we don't even do contact tracing.
But they still want you to sign in.
Still want you to sign in.
Yeah. So obviously there's a social conditioning thing there. But getting back to my original point, Omicron may actually have been the kill switch to this program.
Well, we've spoken about this last year.
Yeah.
And we had, I think I had predicted, and if there's anyone that can remember the episode number, because I'm not going to go back through them all, but I'm sure I said that it was built, like, let's say it was genetically engineered, send it out, see what the result is, have the antidote ready to go. I think it was after I watched Mission Impossible 2, because that was that premise.
Yeah.
Chimera and there was the deadly one, and then there was the antidote to it.
Yeah.
And effectively the premise of that movie. And so it was not unreasonable to think that we've designed the cure for it. We can run all these tests on the way through, and then, okay, all right, we've had enough now. Let's pull the trigger on the other one and send it around.
And what you need to consider when it comes to this is, let's say that it was just purely based on making money out of vaccines. Well, we've seen over the past few months that the narrative around vaccines and their effectiveness has completely started to fall over. So obviously, if you have a really strong business model like this, you want to be able to do it more than once.
Yeah.
To be able to do it more than once, you need people to continue to trust the authorities who've told them everything to do for the last 2 years. So if everyone's gone out, gotten fully vaccinated plus boosted, and then they're still getting COVID and dying from COVID, the trust has started to diminish already.
Yeah.
So the idea is that Omicron is that fail-safe kill switch for COVID in itself. They had that ready to go. They've realised that they're losing control. all right, we got to shut it down. So you release Omicron, it spreads real quick because, I mean...
What do they call it? 7, it's a 7 on the, like for every one person that
like
gets it,
the
7
R0 number.
Yeah.
Which, if you look at, like, friends who've gotten it, like, it's just gone through our friendship circle.
Yeah.
I haven't had it yet. I'm still...
You don't know that.
Still clean.
You could be.
I've probably had
Tasha
it.
showed 0 symptoms, not one.
Yeah, that's true. But it's an interesting theory because, obviously, now that Omicron's going through, we've got such high vaccination rates that the claim the whole time has been, the reason why it's so transmissible, but we're having these good outcomes is because everyone's vaccinated. So how good did the system work? And then, obviously, if you keep that trust with people and this thing dissipates, well, we'll focus on something else for 2 years.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be climate change.
It'll be climate change.
We'll focus on for 2 years. And then maybe the next pandemic will come around.
Yeah.
And then, same thing. And it's what I find fascinating about, again, going back to the psychology thing, these tricks have been run many times before. And the only thing that we learn from history is that we don't learn from history.
Yeah.
And people are we've been programmed again to focus on the here and now. We're an instant gratification generation. And, from our society is all about instant gratification. Everything's instant. We've got Afterpay, Uber Eats, the internet, social media. We get dopamine hits from everywhere that we can possibly look, and you get them instantly. And even if you can't afford something, you can just buy it now and pay it off later.
Yeah.
So you can instantly enjoy it now. And we're so focused on the here and now, the here and now, the here and now. We forget the lessons of the past, and we forget about setting up the proper future.
Yeah.
And think of the things that have been shoehorned into society over the last 2 years, which are going to affect the future. Not enough people are thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Buy Bitcoin.
Buy Bitcoin, absolutely. But it is a fascinating theory to throw out there. Feel free to put it in the comments below, even though I know you won't, about what your thoughts are on it. And should we wrap it up there?
We'll wrap it up there.
Thanks very much for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
Stay safe. We'll see you next RDO.